Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Captain Frost, and today I want to talk to you about why I never ever play with someone else's build and why I always create builds for myself. And what's behind the philosophy of that. So I always wondered why people don't really like to create their own style of the game, why even in games like Path of Exile, where build crafting and the complexity of different parts of refining your character is so interesting, why people always, at least like big amount of people, maybe not most people, but probably most people, but big amount of people don't really want to create their own builds. They just want this clear path of how to do everything, and they just want to play a game with a skill that looks cool. They want to achieve everything that everybody else can achieve with their build, so that means that this build shouldn't be worse than other people's builds. And why do I really think that people are robbing themselves from interesting experiences and interesting parts of the game with mindset like that? So whenever you're creating a build, it's very difficult, especially in Trade League. At least in my own opinion, because, and again, in my another video, I will already discuss that, but if I was just brief you, the point is that in Trade League, there are just way too big of a competition of people. So like people can get every single item and they can get it very, very cheap, without any without too much investment in stuff. And the problem with that is that you do have just this omega builds that clear everything, kill everything with ease, and you can never really compete with your own creation against those people who know about all the items in the game and who can use the best combination of them in their character. And that's an interesting part of buildcraft as well, but at least in my own opinion, to create a viable build in Trade League is way, way harder than to create a viable build in solo self-found leagues. Because in Trade League, you have to compare yourself to other people or to the highest pinnacle challenges that are tackled by most of the people with quite ease. So if your character doesn't kill Uber Elder Uber Elder or like some Uber Searing Exarch, Uber Maven and stuff like that, then it's kind of wacky character. And that's a very, very high just grade of being viable, and that's a very high standard, too high standard for you to create interesting stuff from your head while just sitting in even sitting in pub and thinking about your build is already quite a big dedication level. In order to create good build that can do everything in the game is gonna be just a nightmarish challenge for even like some very, very experienced players. And that's a big problem. Your Trade League, maybe not your Trade League, but in general, Trade League discourages build creation because you need to know about every single mechanic in the game and every single thing that you can acquire through trading with ease. And if your build is way worse than other people's builds, you will just feel bad about creating your own build, and you will say I don't want to do that. I'm just going to take something that already works and have fun with it. And you will have at least again, in my own experience, for some people who might enjoy this thing, you may rob yourself of some fun experiences. I'm not talking about everything, about everyone, and I'm not talking that everyone just should do that and this is a superior way to play the game. But if you would have ever tried to create some interesting build, and if you ever wanted to do such thing but thought of yourself that it's not going to be viable, it's not going to be good, you need to try to play in other modes. And for those modes, when you are creating your own builds, you don't have such a high base level of build operation. You don't really you don't have too many people with such an OP builds that you can't compete with your own creation, even though you can take some inspiration from other people. You can, of course, you can get knowledge about how things work, how builds work, how some particular skills work. But you can always, you're way more encouraged to experiment with all that stuff if you're playing it with solo self-found, with all those, with just way less baseline resources that you have, because you don't really have an access to every single unique item and every single powerful item in the game. So you can't really you can't. You do just have way simpler construction tools, and everyone has way simpler construction tools baseline for the character build-up. And that means that your character will probably don't really have that big of a difference between you and someone else's character. It will, even if you are like very bad at build crafting, but you still understand about the game at least somewhat, so you like have some experience in the game, your builds may be different like by this margin. And if you are lucky, if you do have good drops, then you can incorporate them in this character or maybe in the next one, which will encourage you to create more characters and see how those builds will work on those characters. And I understand that Trade League does this too. So you're playing Trade League, you're farming a bunch of divines, then you're buying a whole set of different cool gear for your second character, you're leveling that character up, and then you're blasting with that character with zero problems. But you're skipping some interesting parts of the game. You're skipping strategizing how you can farm those parts of the gear for that character. And you are with an abundance of ways how you can create your second, third, fourth, fifth character. You don't really feel compelled to do them as much as you feel compelled in solo self-found. So whenever you're dropping a very good item that is build defining, and you do have some other gear that will help that character grow, and it will gain that character ability to power itself up even further down, you are very compelled to create that second character. You are very compelled to play that character, because it's, especially if that character has way more potential than your current one. So at least in my case, how it mostly turns out, I'm playing universally kind of good characters that can tackle at least like most of the tiers of maps from the get-go without any uniques, without any required gear, just with baseline rares and stuff. And that can get some at least minor upgrades if I'm lucky. So if I got good unique for my, I don't know, like helmet with additional mana reservation efficiency for auras, yeah, that's good. Now I can get like, instead of banner, I can get some herald, and this will give me like 10 or 15% boost. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying that this character it's just versatile. It can get a bunch of stuff, even though most of this stuff probably wouldn't really 2x or triple the damage of the character. And after that, when this character is kind of done and I have farmed out a bunch of other stuff for different other characters, I'm looking for the combination of all of best build, and most likely the build that I can create from the gathered stuff will be 2 to 3 to 5 times stronger than my current one. Whenever you're playing Trade League, you are quite less likely to do that stuff, because your baseline characters that you're starting League with is probably gonna be a hella juiced up one that will be able to go through all content and stuff like that. So your second character wouldn't feel as an upgrade as much comparatively to how you would operate in solo self-found League, for example. And that will, you can't really look up builds for the things that you have dropped in solo self-found League as well, especially not as much as in Trade League. What that means is that if you have a set of good items, but nobody really come across combining them in the way that can maybe work with some skill. You just need to create your own build because you don't really have any other items. You can't really buy them and stuff like that. You have like this, like 3 or 4 build defining items, and you don't really have any builds around internet that can combine those items in any meaningful way and stuff like that. And you just need to be more creative. The mode itself pushes you to be pushes you to be versatile and thinking about your own build way more in these circumstances. And again, I'm not trying to say any bad stuff about Trading League. I'm not against the mode, and I do understand that a bunch of people have tons of fun with it. I'm just saying that solo self-found and creating your own builds definitely make you interested in the game from the other points. And it's a unique style, it's a unique type of enjoyment, and I hope that maybe some people will be encouraged to do that and not feel dumb for it. Maybe, just maybe, SSF or other game modes may be pursued in the vast community of the game. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you're having a good time, and goodbye.